I was horrified how bad it was. See us making another one. You know, it's a massive bet. They were done with Kratos.
Second he left the room, I was like, that was not good.
Gaming here with IGN News. Layoffs unfortunately hit Sony Santa Monica studio today. The Sony-owned exclusive developer, founded in 1999, is best known for its God of War games. The extent of the damage remains unclear, though there are indications that one of the projects the studio was working on has been canceled alongside this round of layoffs.
No pressure.
This was the state of God of War in 2014. A legendary franchise left for dead and a studio in crisis. By all accounts, the game you know and love shouldn't exist. The year is 2005. Sony's Santa Monica studio, founded in 1999, was already making a name for itself, contributing to titles like 989 Sports Game Breakers. But they were hungry for something more, something truly their own. Then came God of War. In an era of platformers and shooters, they dropped a brutal, visceral, and epic lesson in Greek mythology onto the PlayStation 2. This wasn't just a new game, it was a statement.
Grabbing people and throwing people around, and like you get that sense of empowerment, you know, like nothing can stop you.
Especially in the first God of War, when nobody, with the exception of a couple of us, had any idea what it was.
So to me, God of War game is about the action, it's about the rage.
I was a god in the beginning, and then I was put down, and then I came back, destroyed everybody.
Kratos, the anti-hero fueled by rage, became an instant icon. The game felt truly next-gen, even on old hardware, and its critical and commercial success cemented Santa Monica Studio as a top studio within PlayStation.
God of War revolutionized the gaming industry with its epic storytelling, jaw-dropping action sequences, not to mention a quick and brutal lesson on Greek mythology.
Among the talented individuals at the studio was Cory Barlog. Starting as an animator on the first game, his creative vision and leadership potential quickly became clear to see. Following the massive success of the original, he stepped into the director's role for God of War 2. And he didn't just meet expectations, he shattered them. I mean, he really cooked, delivering a sequel that many consider even greater than the first.
A lot of the time, we have no clue what we're talking about. I mean, there are a lot of leaps that you make in this job where you're like, all right, look, I kind of know what I want, but sometimes you're discovering as you go.
Kratos was an icon. Santa Monica Studios was on top of the world, a key pillar of the PlayStation brand. And Cory Barlog was the rising star director who had helped put them there. The franchise seemed unstoppable, but for every great rise, there's an even greater fall. After the monumental success of the original trilogy, the God of War franchise seemed unstoppable. But by 2013, the formula was growing stale. The prequel, God of War Ascension, was released to a lukewarm reception, earning the lowest review scores in the series' history. The magic felt like it was gone. There was a sense of fatigue, a feeling that Kratos, once a titan of the industry, had nothing new to offer.
You know, like Ascension did not get reviewed well. A lot of people were pretty frustrated with that.
Layoffs unfortunately hit Sony Santa Monica studio today. The Sony-owned exclusive developer, founded in 1999, is best known for its God of War games. The extent of the damage remains unclear, though there are indications that one of the projects the studio was working on has been canceled alongside this round of layoffs.
After Ascension, they did this thing to check how the audience felt about God of War. The overwhelming vibe was that they were done with Kratos. You know, Kratos either needed to go away or needed a fresh start.
The franchise seemed lost, and the studio began exploring what came next. Early on, a radical idea took hold. Do the unthinkable and get rid of Kratos entirely. A significant portion of the team felt the character had run its course. The argument was that the true identity of God of War wasn't Kratos, but the epic scale of its mythology. The pitch was to create a brand new protagonist, allowing the developers to play in the world without the baggage of a character they felt was annoying and played out. But Barlog had a very different idea. He argued that simply creating a new hero was the easy way out. The real challenge, the much more powerful story, was to take this icon of anger and guide him toward redemption. But to justify such a massive narrative shift, he needed to prove there was an audience for it. And in 2013, another Sony studio provided the perfect piece of evidence.
The one that I remember the most, Last of Us, is probably the one that I remember the most that spoke to the largest group of people. It isn't to say that games prior didn't do this, so I know the internet will probably get very upset if I say that they were the ones, but they were the ones that I think made the largest splash, that suddenly made it okay to tackle, subjects that made you care and empathize with other characters, that made you feel something other than fear, tension, or anger. Right?
The Last of Us was a game changer. Its success proved that players were hungry for mature, emotional stories. And for Barlog, it was exactly what he needed. He could point at it and say, look, audiences want this.
Audiences want this, right? They are clamoring for something more. They want to spend time playing something. They want to spend 30 hours, 20 hours playing something, then they want to feel something. They want to connect with these characters and feel like joy as much as sadness.
So he pitched his new vision. A story about a father and a son, about a man who, after a lifetime of violence, would be forced to confront his own humanity. The very core of Kratos' character had to change.
All of this began. It began with that idea of all right, he is a character that everybody feels they know very well, right? That Kratos is the sort of one-note vengeance man, and we needed a reason, I think, for him to change or desire to change, right? And I had my son, and there was a shift in me that I want to actually be a better person.
After much debate, his vision won out. The decision was made. Kratos would live. But saving a character on paper is one thing. Building a revolutionary new game around him is another. The team at Santa Monica Studios now faced a mountain. They weren't just making a sequel, they were starting from scratch. New mythology, new combat, new camera, a new engine, and a new Kratos. The chaos was amplified when another internal sci-fi project was cancelled, and its staff was suddenly absorbed into the God of War team, months ahead of schedule.
We were just trying to basically do mental push-ups to be ready for the team, and then all of a sudden they just got delivered on our doorstep about 8 to 9 months early, and it was like, what are we gonna do now? And it was just scrambling, And then there's a lot of mistrust right out of the gate because they're like, what have you guys been doing over here? You don't know what game we're making? And we're like, you guys are early.
It was very difficult, but we had to push on, and I think we had to find the positivity out of it and figure out how we can kind of collect everybody again.
This was the fundamental problem. Every single department was starting from zero, all at the same time.
So across the board, we were getting an engine, lighting, the ability to build a level, right? And a level itself, while at the same time getting all the mechanics designed, while at the same time figuring out what the core combat loop is. Literally everyone is waiting for another person to finish something because they've got something else. How can somebody design a puzzle? We don't know what the puzzle mechanics are.
At the heart of this creative storm were 3 core battles. The first was the single-shot camera. Barlog's vision was for an entire 30-hour game with no camera cuts, a decision that would create an unparalleled sense of immersion. But from a technical standpoint, it was a nightmare.
There was some knockdown dragouts that I've had with a few people, some of it dealing with the early drafts of the script, some of it dealing with eliminating different mechanics from the game, some of it really dealing with you're changing too much of this, right? You're going through and you're changing all of it. This isn't God of War anymore. And that argument persisted all the way, I think, throughout.
The second great battle was Atreus. Kratos' son was the heart of the new story, but making a companion character who felt helpful and not annoying is one of the hardest things to do in game design.
Probably till October of 2017, maybe even December of 2017, to get Atreus working right. So that is scary, because that's 4 years of uncertainty, 4 years of maybe we should get rid of the kid. And I had many conversations, very serious conversations at the beginning of you need to cut him, right? Lots of scoping and it's too big, we can't do it.
And the third battle was the combat. The team was moving away from the classic wide-angle hack and slash to a more intimate, over-the-shoulder perspective. For a long time, it just wasn't fun.
Now what does that mean? Well, that means you go back to the drawing table and you do it again. And we've had even I think a shoe visit a little while ago in March where the second he left the room, I was like, that was not good. There's something that in his facial expression that is telling us there's an issue here.
But I don't think I read exactly how unhappy he was. I was not very perceptive on that one. It was Carlo who ran into him, and Shuhei starts telling him. I was horrified how bad it was.
I think the team, rightfully so, gets nervous when they hear like, oh, Shu's playthrough, was not all positive, right?
Horrified. The word sent a shockwave through the team. It felt like the project was hanging by a thread. The pressure was so intense that it began to take a personal toll on everyone, especially Corey.
Come home from work, being a stay-at-home parent, she's constantly immersed in work. And I kind of feel the same way, and I should be able to separate from it, but I have this problem where my brain will not disengage. It was last night, it was 3 in the morning, and I'm like, I really need to sleep. I have to sleep, and I just could not stop tossing and turning and
what are you doing?
Going over both the positive and negative scenarios. And one of them was trying to convince myself, the positive scenario, and the other one was just worming its way in.
To salvage the project, the team had to face reality. The original vision was simply too big. They had to start cutting.
Came the things I focused on in this game to ensure that I wouldn't mess that up. I would love, this is the big thing that changed. We cut a lot of bosses, a lot. We had so many more. It was a much more ambitious, crazier game. And then as you go through development and you start realizing, no, this is too big, we can't do this, right?
With the final release date approaching, the game was still unstable. The team was exhausted, the executives were nervous, and time was running out. They had made a massive bet on a new vision for God of War, and it looked like that bet was about to fail.
Seriously? Now I'm looking at the game as a whole going, there's no way we're going to stabilize this.
Big for one time. When we do this in building.
After 5 years of creative battles, technical nightmares, and immense personal sacrifice, the day of judgment arrived. The team at Santa Monica Studios had pushed themselves to the absolute limit to stabilize the game and hit their deadline. They had survived development hell, but the real test was yet to come. The world's reaction. On April 20th, 2018, God of War was released. The team and the entire gaming world held its breath.
And at the end, you have one thing. And then one day it's out there. And either everybody loves it, or everyone hates it, or even worse, they're indifferent and it's just crickets, right? And that's it. It's such feast or famine.
It wasn't crickets. It was a roar of universal acclaim. The reviews were not just positive, they were historic. Critics called it a masterpiece, a triumph of storytelling, and an instant contender for Game of the Year. The massive bet on a new, emotional direction hadn't just worked, it had paid off in spades, exceeding even the most optimistic expectations. The team had done more than just make a good game. They had created a cultural phenomenon. And the rest is history. I know I loved the game, and I'm sure that most likely you did too if you're still watching. The culmination of this impossible journey came at the 2018 Game Awards. This was the final hurdle, the ultimate recognition for 5 years of struggle and doubt.
All right, and the Game Award for Game of the Year goes to God of War.
In the end, they had done it. Against all odds, they had taken a franchise that was considered dead, a character that was almost cut, and a project on the brink of collapse, and transformed it into a masterpiece. Now, if you want to hear about another crazy development story, check out my video on how Epic Games made Fortnite by accident.